W ciszy słyszała pomruk owadów i stukot swoich butów o asfalt. Pachniało zielenią. Trzmiel wyskoczył z kępy ostów, zatoczył się w powietrzu i uderzył ją mocno w twarz. Jeszcze długo czuła na policzku nieprzyjemne mrowienie. Trawy zawisły nad drogą, jakby przelewały się przez jej krawędź. Kłosy łaskotały ją w łydki. Kostrzewa, pesz, sorgo. Nerwowo przesunęła dłonią po skórze. Miała wrażenie, że każdy dotyk źdźbła zostawia na niej coś, co musi natychmiast strzepnąć. My name is Dominika. My surname is Słowik. I come from Poland and I'm a fiction writer. I think the best thing about being a writer in Poland is the writer community that we have there. I feel a lot of support from my fellow writers, especially women. I have a lot of friendships in the community, and it's much easier to deal with this freelance job when you feel that you have people around you that can help you and just be with you when you need that. And what's the worst thing about being a writer in Poland? I think this is not specific to Poland, but just being a writer, a creator, a freelancer in the area of arts is demanding economically. It's hard to be sure of what's next for you. Usually you need to do a few stops at the same time just to support yourself. And also, I think for me the hardest part, especially when I was starting, was to realize that my job, my work, is not easily. It depends on the opinion of others. I cannot, calculate how good is my writing. I depend on other opinions and views. It's very arbitrary, so you need to just find the right mindset to deal with that. What's the best thing about Poland? This is a hard question for me because right now Poland is going through a very difficult period, let's say, and with our right-wing conservative government who very eagerly uses the tools of demagogy and nationalism. We have the ongoing limitation of women's rights. Abortion is practically unavailable to anybody, and women are dying in the hospitals. We have the migrant crisis on our border, and people are dying there. A lot of politically induced hatred toward the LGBTQ community. So, when you ask me what's the best thing about Poland, it just I need to dig through all those negative emotions, because after all, this is also my country that I love, and I don't want them to overtake the definition of Poland. So besides the people that I love in my country, I think the very important part of my country is the landscape and the nature. And I believe that in general our memories and our attachment to the place is very much deposited in the nature, and we charge it emotionally. So Polish is just a beautiful country. I studied something that's called individual interfaculty studies in the humanities. And to make things short, I usually say that I graduated from Spanish philology because this was my main diploma. But it meant that I was able to choose from different faculties. So I had quite a good variety of subjects that I follow, a lot of theater studies because I enjoyed it, some sociology. So it was good as a formative background for the writer. But I think the most important part of it was that I needed to choose a so-called tutor, mentor that guided me through the studies. And I was only 19 years old, so I didn't know a lot about anything. And I had a luck to choose a Polish poet who worked at the Polish literature faculty, Bronisław Maj. And it is quite funny because he was a participant of IWP in the 90s. And he was telling me about IWP when I was starting my studies, and I had no idea that I was gonna write a book then. So this is really a meaningful coincidence for me. I like writing in general, so I think even the difficult parts are pleasurable to me in a way. What I enjoy a lot is a routine of writing, choosing the preferred spaces to write. I have favorite spaces in Krakow, favorite libraries, favorite coffee shops where I go to write. So this is really nice. And what's least pleasurable, most difficult, I think that the hardest part is when you need to start turning your idea into the writing. The very first moment when you need just to transfer it from the mental state into a very physical act of writing. This is hard. I wouldn't say that. I don't know if every writer has a public duty. I know that I feel that I have a public duty, and this feeling grew with me getting more recognition. So I think I believe it goes with the privilege. More privilege you have as a writer, having access to media, being able to give interviews, being able to talk with international community, more duty you have, because you're just influencing people with your writing and with talking and with the topics you decide to take on. So to me, it was gradually becoming more and more important, to the degree when my last book was very public duty book, let's say, because it's about the climate change, and I really wanted just to talk about it with the readers and journalists. And regarding COVID, I think it's all goes together, because I think COVID itself just shows the weaknesses of our current system, and it is a crisis that, in fact, serves as a good background to other ongoing crises. Yes, I do think that states should support literature. I myself was able to finish my second book thanks to the state support, because I got a scholarship. And I was just on the starting my literature career, so it definitely would be much harder to finish a long book without that. I think that relying only on market is very deceiving in terms of the art, because then we're only gonna get commercialized product that's usually also very repetitive, and that derives from the literature, culture, art that first wasn't so popular. So and in the current economy, it's very difficult to make a living when you're just starting creating. So I think that the state support and the initial state is very important, and just to buy time and space for a person who creates, because this is the only thing that we need. We need time and space where we can use this time to create. I think the most important book to me of the last decade, I would say, that I read in last decade, because it was created in the 90s, is novel, The Rings of Saturn by Sebald. I do love this book. I read it for the first time about 6 years ago, I think, and I came back to it this year with, I was a little worried to reread it, because usually when you love a book or a movie and then after a few years you go back to it, you're different, you're in a different place, so it doesn't resonate with you that much. But this time it's still a perfect book, and the way he writes, it just amazes me. I know I should talk about a book a little to describe it, but I just don't, I'm unable to do that in Sebald's case. Just please read him, because either you love him and you just stay a Sebaldian with this book, or at least you'll know why I'm so in love with his writing. No, I've been to the United States before, but this is the first contact with the university, so I think it's different because it's like a state within the state. Okay, so well, just before coming to Iowa City, my newest book got published in Poland. Its title is Samosiejki. So because of that, I knew I wasn't gonna immediately start writing another thing. I'm in a moment when I'm trying to reflect on what I'm gonna write about next. And here in Iowa City, it was a really good place to discuss some of the things I'm planning, to just bounce my idea around, talk with other writers, with people from the program, and just also sit over a cafe in Prairie Lights bookshop and think about it. What I'm struggling with is writing a contemporary book, which I think is very in contemporary in a sense that it's happening right now. I've never done that. I think writing about current year is very challenging for a writer, because there are a lot of traps we can fall into. It's hard to see things when it's such a short distance, but at the same time, what's happening right now is just, I'm unable to turn my head away from this, so I'm just struggling with this idea, if I should do that, if I'm able to do that. I'm very much fond of what Alice Smith did with her writing about Brexit and migrant crisis in Great Britain. So I know it's doable, and still it's literature, and very good literature, not journalism. But yeah, I think just this quiet, cozy time in Iowa City was really good space to settle some of those ideas. I don't understand why there's a live bird on a football game. Like, you shouldn't do that.